Now, the consumer price index just surged by 7%, the biggest jump since the height of the Cold War. Meantime, Americans are flooding social media with photos of empty stores and the hashtag #BareShelvsBiden. Some are even drawing comparisons with the Soviet Union as grocery store shelves remain empty. Watch.
It's like a Soviet store during 1981. It's horrible.
Kennedy, this is astonishing. And those comparisons, those people are not wrong.
No, they're not. And actually, the fall of communism followed a trip to Houston that Boris Yeltsin made in 1989. And he went into just a typical grocery store in Houston, and it actually brought him to tears because he couldn't believe that anyone in America could walk into a grocery store like this and have a bounty in front of them. He said the produce was so fresh, the meat and fish and poultry so abundant. He said they didn't even have anything like this for members of the Politburo back in the Soviet Union. And that's when he realized that communism was a lie. And Americans have always had abundance and choice, but now this is what they're faced with. And for those of us who had, moms and dads who left Soviet states for the promise of a better life, this gives them PTSD because, they are seeing what they fled, and this is becoming an everyday reality for people. And the Biden administration is trying to pass it off as some sort of economic success. Stop lying to us.
Cheryl, experts across the board, from union leaders to CEOs, members of the trucking industry, they warn us that the worst is yet to come, that to expect this for weeks to come. Your thoughts?
Well, that's absolutely true, and we're seeing that pan out. I mean, the supply chain crisis may not subside for the next 6 months or so, and the inflation story, according to Wall Street analysts, we're going to see this for at least another couple of months. But if you look at the data, what I find interesting about the White House is they like to talk about core CPI. Well, that was still a jump of 5.5%, right? That's excluding food and energy. Well, look at gasoline prices up 50%. Food costs, one of the biggest jumps we saw in the headline number this morning. Look at what you're paying. You're paying 18% more for meat year over year. You're paying more for eggs. You're paying more for dairy. And then back to the supply chain crunch and those empty shelves that we've been seeing across the country. Part of that is Omicron. Part of that is sick calls. Grocery stores are down 20% right now for staffing levels. And then you're also looking at shutdowns that are happening in China. So the entire supply chain is being crunched from top to bottom. And Kennedy's right. What the White House is saying and what they like to focus on, which is that core number, is absolutely wrong. It is used cars and vehicles. It is gas. It is food. It is everything that low-income, struggling Americans are fighting for right now. And that's just to get by. And it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Kilmeade, online searches for basic products have been skyrocketing also because people can't find them on the shelves, right? For spinach, potatoes, pasta, pet food. These are basic fundamental things that Americans need that they cannot find.
Right. And I was surprised that Kennedy stole my Yeltsin reference, but you went to her first. That is my fault. I did not bone up on the phone. Remember the good old days when we used to worry about Russia, how drunk Yeltsin would be? Now we got this lunatic Vladimir Putin to deal with, but that's for another show. First off, we got a couple of reasons. 10%, they say, are food manufacturers. They can't get people to work. Everybody's sick. They say also truck drivers are about 80,000 down. That's also a big one. They say more people have called in sick over the last 2 weeks than have all of 2020 because of Omicron, because it's so prevalent and easy to spread. The problem is some of this stuff has nothing to do with President Biden. That's all he has to say is, listen, we just explained. The four of us just explained. The five of us are about to explain. There's all factors that are really out of America's control. The problem is he was the one who said it was over. He solved the problem. The shelves are stocked. You know, even though I had laser surgery, a lot of times I look at the shelves and I see empty shelves, so I must be wrong because President Biden told me he solved the problem and saved Christmas. So the fact that he said he solved the problem and saved Christmas, and we're in January and the shelves are empty, that's the issue, Emily.
This was perfect choreography, Brian. We have a shot of that. Let's play it for you right now when President Biden dismissed concerns of empty shelves. Take a watch.
The much predicted crisis didn't occur. Packages are moving. Gifts are being delivered. Shelves are not empty.
Experts, including Wall Street, are suggesting that it's highly unlikely that it's going to be long-term inflation that's going to get out of hand.
Harris, this response has been par for the course. This administration either denies the reality or they say, well, we didn't do it, it just happened.
Look, we know that Joe Biden didn't even know the cost of meat until a distant relative on his wife's side, he said, pointed it out. This has to do with how often he is actually in the real world. I love Delaware. I consider it to be a slice of fantastic life. I don't know where he goes when he goes there, since 20% of the time in his presidency he's been there. Do they not have grocery stores in Delaware? Of course they do. Does he ever go out? I don't know. But he also threw Santa Claus under the bus, Brian Kilmeade, because he said at Christmas time that Santa was going to solve it. So if it didn't get solved, I hope he doesn't expect us to stop believing in the power of magic of Christmas. I'm not quite sure what reality he's in. But when I saw my own Trader Joe's today with empty shelves on our network in a picture, I looked at the Chiron I was like, wait a minute, that's where I live. I thought they solved that last week. No, they can't. Because it takes things longer to get here. And look, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus the way the Santa got thrown under the bus by the President of the United States, but what happens when the demand goes way, 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 way up and you're in business? You might hike a price. That might hike a price faster than inflation could. It could get precipitously more expensive for us to buy the things we need when we can finally find them again, because there's nobody keeping watch on that. And I want to, just ask Cheryl about that. Come on, price gouging. Is that in our future too?
If I hear, well, actually, that's already happening on sites like Amazon for COVID tests. I don't know if you've seen that
I have.
crossing, but yeah, so price gouging is beginning to start.
I don't eat those, though.
No, but the things that you do eat, no, absolutely. I don't know about price gouging, but that's what the Biden White House likes to, of course, throw out there constantly when it comes to the meat industry. They're saying this is just corporate greed. How many times have you heard Jen Psaki Harris say that it's the greed of the meat companies? That's why meat prices are up.
It's just those Peloton buyers.
Yeah. Or wait a minute. Your energy prices, gasoline up 50% year over year. That's because of the greedy energy companies. Meanwhile, they've got plenty of departments and committees and things that they could use, research tools within the U.S. government, I think, where they could give us proof in a report. They don't seem to be able to show me the proof. If I see the proof that there's gouging in the meat industry, I will take back my disdain for Jen Psaki and what she's been, I think, has been deflecting from the podium recently.
Right. Well, and Harris, you said who's watching this? That's in part the media's job, right, is to observe and get the facts, glean the facts, and disseminate them. And that's been stoked, frankly, by a media that knee-jerk defends Biden and refuses to acknowledge the facts. We have a tweet from Brian Stelter, who said, what empty shelves, right? Mocking the supply chain, as he wrote, she exclaims, looking for milk for a 2-year-old. Those are real concerns. They are not to be mocked. And yet it was certainly amplified within social media and mainstream media that real Americans' concerns were somehow to be ignored. But Harris, you brought up, belief and Santa Claus, and in the immortal words of Steve Perry, don't stop believing. But I think we've got some hard times ahead of us before we can become true.
On the journey?
Exactly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.